Hello, dear viewers. I am a global nationalist. I support nationalism in my country, India, and in all countries around the globe. Today is the first Saturday of the month, and so I will be making a video about nationalism in India. Today, I want to talk about the Indian economy figures that have been released by the government this week, and I want to analyze them and to see how the Indian economy will perform in the future, especially with respect to the new COVID variant Omicron that has been spreading throughout the world, including in India. First, I want to show you the uh, a s- paper report on in the new in the Indian Express, which contains the figures that have been released. So here, on Tuesday, the government released the growth data for the second quarter, which is from July, August, and September of the current financial year. Accordingly, India's gross domestic product, which measures economic activity from the demand side by looking at the expenditures made by different sections of the society, was 8.4% more than it was in the same quarter last year. India's gross value added, which measures economic activity from the supply side by looking at the value added by different sectors of the economy, was 8.5% more than it was in the same quarter last year. Now, this I think is very good news because it shows that the Indian economy is growing again. It's recovering from the recession that was caused by the pandemic induced lockdown last year when India had two successive quarters of contraction in the economy and therefore had a recession. Now that the economy is growing both from the demand side and from the supply side, I think we can say that although we are not back to the pre pandemic levels of the economy completely, we are no longer in the pandemic levels of the economy. We're moving out of that, but we still have a long way to go. Why do I say this? It's because of this table, these two tables that have been provided. So, yes, so as you can see, this is the breakup of the quarter two GDP breakup, not the this is the quarter two GVA breakup, which unfortunately I can't show you because this ad is blocking it. My apologies. So for the quarter two GDP breakup, it's broken up into private final consumption expenditure, which is the amount of expenditure that Indian citizens and households have expended in consuming products. This is the government final consumption expenditure, which is what the government has expended, and uh, gross fixed capital formation. This is um, here it says yes, but this growth was um, yeah, here this is the investments made by business, gross fixed capital formation, and this is the exports minus the imports. Negative means that um, exports were less than the imports, which is a negative we want always our exports to be greater than our imports. Now, what this shows is that in this quarter of 21 to 22, the consumption of the individual Indians did increase from the last year's quarter, quarter two, to 19 lakhs from 17 lakhs. Sorry, but has not reached the level in 2019 to 20 when it was 20 lakhs. However, it is good to note that it is higher than any other point since from 2019 to 2018. So it is on upward trajectory and hopefully it will continue. Now, the government final consumption expenditure has also increased, but still it is not, let alone is it not at the 2020 levels. It has not even reached the 2018 levels, which is very alarming actually. I'm not entirely sure why there hasn't been more expenditure by the government, but I suspect that that might be because they did not want to spend too much money from the government side, which would create inflationary pressures on the rupee. I think they wanted the economy to recover naturally without too much excessive government support. So that might be a reason. Gross fixed capital formation also increased, and how and yeah, it's highest it's ever been since 2018, which is a very good sign. But unfortunately, the expenditure by businesses accounts for 33% of all GDP. This is less than the private consumption, which accounts for 55% of all GDP. And so it's not enough to keep the country afloat, because if household expenditure does not increase, then all the investments that companies have made would probably not result in enough sales for them to sell all their inventory, which will cause a lot of their inventory to go to waste and would probably cause layoffs to happen, increasing unemployment in the country. And exports minus imports, uh, imports increased and they are the highest they've been since 2018. I I'm not sure why this is. This might be because of the rest of the world also having economic problems, and so demand being down in foreign markets, and so exports might have decreased. That might be why it is more negative than it's been since 18. Now, what are the key takeaways from the GVA data? The GVA data shows the um, for each sector in the economy how it has grown from the supply side. So the GV in all sectors is better than it was in Q2 of last year. Four key sectors that play a great role in creating fresh jobs, however, are still below the levels achieved in 2019 or before. These are mining and quarrying, construction and services such as trade, hotels, and all the financial services. Lower GVA levels would imply lower incomes for those employed in these sectors as well as lower employment opportunities in them. Therefore, I hope that all of these sectors start growing again, and that I am confident that they will, because the other sectors have been growing. So I think that will, those same conditions that could influence these to grow. However, all of this is dependent on this little thing called the Omicron variant of COVID. This article in Outlook magazine shows the impact of Omicron in the upcoming poll season. So they say that the pent up demand in the Western world had led to India clocking high exports and manufacturing sector growth, but inflation in the prices of commodities like crude, oil, coal, steel, and cement led to double digit inflation in the WPI, something that India had not witnessed in a decade. uh, and that between January and November 2021, the price of petrol in Delhi rose by 32%, which is also happening in the international markets. And to show how Omicron is impacting markets, we can see this statement from the CEO of the US-based vaccine maker Moderna, which recently said that Omicron may be able to bypass the immunity provided by the COVID-19 vaccines. This caused the price of Brent crude oil to drop by 16.40%, while WTI is down 20.8%, the biggest monthly fall since March 2020, which is when the spread of COVID 19 was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization. So people are expecting Omicron to have a similar impact. This is going to cause a crash in crude oil prices, which will also cause commodities and other prices, the prices of other commodities to reduce in coming weeks, which will bring down the WPI in India, which is good. We should always hope that inflation reduces, but this could also cause the companies in India that sell these commodities to make losses, to suffer losses, and to therefore downsize, increasing unemployment. So, yeah, that will have very interesting impacts on the UP and other state elections early next year. Because while inflation would have reduced, unemployment would have increased. So Modi and the BJP would have to somehow make sure that while jobs are lost in some sectors, other jobs are grown in others, so that there isn't the unemployment rate doesn't skyrocket and can be kept steady so that they can win. And uh, please wait. So this shows that the economy is doing better. It's improving, but several sectors have not improved along with the rest of the economy. And I hope that they will and I grow, that they can adapt. And I think that the government can help out by improving infrastructure, building better roads and airports and highways, which is, for example, what they've done in the UP. I think that is fabulous. More such infrastructure projects need to be implemented throughout the country. And yeah, I think that especially since construction is lagging behind, if the government can spend more on infrastructure, which is a construction heavy, almost construction centric uh, area, then I think that it will reduce unemployment in the construction workers and increase their incomes, which will be good for them and the economy. And I think um, I don't hope that the government doesn't. First of all, I don't think the government will impose a national lockdown. I think that is completely out of the question, because now India has more than 33% of the population fully vaccinated with two shots, while about 56% are vaccinated with half a shot. I think that Omicron spreads, that it will also create some immunity, because It's not deadly. It doesn't kill people, as far as we know. Most people can survive it. So I think it'll spread immunity for COVID, and I'm confident that the vaccines produced in India can defend against it. And yeah, I think that'll help, and that'll prevent, because that will make sure us not need a lockdown at a national level and at a state level. I think that states won't have state wise lockdowns. I think they'll have district wise restrictions, but not the same as before. I think that they'll have some version of vaccine mandates that are happening in other countries, but I don't think they'll be as excessive. I think that they're now less worried about COVID and are more confident about the future. So I think that industries that require a lot of travel for between places for the people, such as hospitality and tourism, won't suffer too much. They might suffer a little, but not like they did in the first and second waves. I so I'm confident about the Indian economy going forward, and I hope that this will convince people to understand that the efforts of the central government, the BJP, and the state governments ruled by the BJP have helped India regain its growth and improve its economy. And I hope that the people who live in the states up for elections next year will vote for the BJP for their economic performance. And I will be following these elections very closely starting next year, and order to convince others to vote for the BJP. I am not being paid by the BJP. I am not a member of the BJP. I do not know any of the members of the BJP, whether they're high ranking or low ranking. I have no connection to the RSS. I'm not speaking this because I have some vested interest. I simply think that the BJP is the best party in India, not by, well, which isn't saying much because most of the parties in India are very bad. But I do think that the BJP is better than others, so I hope that they win these elections. So that's why I'm supporting them. And before I go, I want to ask you to please watch other videos in this playlist by clicking here. And if you want to watch the previous video I made on this channel, click here. If you want to see the sources that I've used in this video, click in the description links below. Thank you for watching. Vande Mataram.